Now I'm going to tell you this story. This goes with it too. After Fire the Grid happened, two things happened. Princeton University contacted me, and they said, "What did you do?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what did I do?" And they said, "Well, this is the first time in the history of measuring Earth's energy field that the energy field shifted up and did not go back down. And we want to know what you did. And we want to know where you got the information." And I said, extraterrestrials, otherworldlies, angels. You know, what I did was based on something from another world. And if the energy field went up and never came back down again, that's awesome. But I didn't do anything. We collectively shifted that earth field. And it is one of the things that I use as a little nugget of our proof. You know, I said if you need proof, you'll never have enough. But this is a pretty powerful proof that Princeton's been measuring this energy field for dozens and dozens of years. And they talked about Princess Diana and Mother Teresa and different world events. And the field would go blip, and then it would go back down, right? And then the field would go blip, and then it would go back down. Fire the Grid 1, it went blip, and it never went back down. Now, that coupled with the fact that I got contacted by a man in Switzerland. His name was Peter Roche de Copan, and he contacted me and he said, "Would you come to France and talk to the students, the medical students?" I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because what you did with your child in the hospital, we are teaching over here." And I'm like, "Well, how did you even hear about this?" But at that point, it was just so big, everybody was contacting me. And he said, "Well, if you come over and teach it." I said, "Well, I can't come over, but I'll tell you what I know on the phone." So what he told me was that in Europe, they were understanding there was two bodies to be healing. You have to physically work with the tubes and the pipes and the blood and the fluids of a human being, and that has to be cared for with medicine. But energetically, the energy body also needed to be tended to, which is what we did in the hospital with Evan. It was really clear that Evan had two bodies. Leave the doctors to the one that needs, you know, put the blood in or pump the blood out or whatever you're going to do with the physical body, but you have to tend to the energy body. And he also said this is the next evolution of medicine. So what the beings told me was that the next evolution of medicine was going to be a long wand with a measuring tool on it. And when you come into the doctor and say, "I'm sick," the doctor's going to stick this measuring wand into your energy field and go, "Oh, you're only 200 hertz. No wonder you feel shitty." It's as simple as that. And they're going to go, "Here's your prescription. Random acts of kindness. Listen to uplifting music. Find something joyful and say thank you." Blip, 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 blip. Emoto, the guy who did the water crystals, he did a water crystal for Fire the Grid. It's a magnificent little crystal. So he wrote Fire the Grid and he taped it to a bottle. And he was so convinced that this was a powerful project from another world, from God, from Source, from otherworldly beings. He was so convinced of that he took the entire presidential body up to Mount Titicaca in helicopters to do Fire the Grid over that Great Lake, because he believed that Great Lake was a well source for the entire planet. So he thought this was great. Now, of course, he's died. But he left us with a Fire the Grid crystal, and he left us with the thought that he said this could only have come from the light. This could only have come from the God source because it was such a beautiful crystal. And if it was a negative thing, it would have done one of those imploded little snarly things. When I used to speak to so once I got in the groove of doing this, I would travel from one place to another and I would speak. And I lived on Red Bull. Well, it's almost like, you know how they give Ritalin to somebody with ADD? So they give an ADD person uppers to actually calm them. Well, my frequency was buzzing like crazy. And I was hearing voices all the time. One of my favorite stories is me walking around and I have a package of allergy pills in my hand. And I'm like, you know, I've been talking sometimes twice a day about this spiritual stuff. And I'm hearing in my ear, put it in your purse, put it in your purse, put it in your purse. And I'm like, for God's sakes, I'm trying to find my deodorant. I'll put the pills in my purse when I get a minute. But see, the thing was, when Spirit speaks to you, when Source speaks to you, whatever words suit you, they didn't say, you put it in your purse. So finally, after buzzing and like, frig, okay, I'll put it in my purse. So I opened the purse up to put the allergy pills in the purse, and there's the deodorant. So, I know, but they were saying, you put it in your purse. But the you part was missing. So do you see how challenging it is now to discern what's being said to you? And this is part of teaching too, is that when you start to listen and when you start to see things, you don't know what that means. You have to interpret what that means from the person you are. And if you don't understand it, now you have to wait for more information or you have to ask for clarity. So here, put it in your purse, put it in your purse, put it in your purse, and I got allergy pills. I'm assuming they want me to put it in my purse. That's not what they were saying at all. They were telling me where the deodorant was. Another story. I had the crystal. I should be wearing it today, but I broke it. But anyway, I had the crystal, and it meant the world to me because it was my truth amplifier that I used to speak to the people. And so I lost it. I was out of my mind. I checked everywhere I thought it could be, and so I went upstairs, and I was like, where's the necklace? And then they showed me my gym bag, and I said, I already looked there. And then 2 fingers went in and pulled the seam apart, and there was the necklace lying down in the seam of the bag. And I said, if that necklace is there, I'll never question again. So I went, I got the bag, and I did exactly what the picture in my mind, and I pulled the seam open, and there was the necklace lying in the seam. Okay, I'll never question again until the next time. I went to this speaking engagement like this. There was about 25 people in the room, and they had dowsing rods, and the lady's getting people to stand up, and she says, you know, think about something yucky, and then the things would go in, and think about something you love, and you know, and say thank you, and they would go out. And so she says, you come over and stand up here. And of course, I was in the throes of speaking about Fire the Grid every day, and she didn't know who I was. And she said, stand right there and we'll measure you. And I said, okay. And she put the dowsing rods up, and they started to spin in circles. And she goes, what's going on? Back up, back up. And so I went to the far end of the room, and she goes, what the heck is going on? What's going on with you? Well, I spent every single day during that 2-week period, 2 to 3 times a day, speaking about becoming high frequency, how to become high frequency, what to do with high frequency. And it was measurable by these little dowsing rods that were just, but again, not me specific. I'm not special. You too, we all have this ability to make dowsing rods go crazy. You just have to really hold high frequency. Oh, I love my grandchild so much. And your face says it all. And then you just say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then you create this incredible energy field off your body that not only can be measured with dowsing rods, but when you walk in a room, everybody sees you, right? And they feel that high frequency energy. And then you can really start to use it, which is the goal here, is to get people not afraid of this energy, not afraid of the fact that there's something else out there that can help us. You know, these beings want to help us. We have to be cautious that we don't get caught up in that whole ET world of, oh, they're scary, you know, because there's such a divide in the two worlds that something extraterrestrial, something otherworldly, multidimensional is coming to eat our faces. And they have really tried to make us fearful. The propaganda from the 50s onward of abductions and all these types of things. Now the difference between a contactee and an abductee is a contactee is me. I'm not afraid of otherworldlies. But if you speak to an abductee, they're terrified. of this other energy. So we do have a light field and we have a dark field. You know, we have a light army and a dark army. And all you have to do is specify which army you want to be joining, and then keep turning towards that in every choice you make. And that's what keeps you in that safe place. Now, I've had several, I guess, extraterrestrial type of experiences. One of them was I was in my bedroom with my husband. We had the door open, and there's this light blinking on and off. I thought it was a firefly. It was, you know, this big, and it was blinking, but it was purple. And I was like, so I looked at my husband. I said, "Is there any purple fireflies?" And he goes, "Well, that one's purple." And it was blue and purple, and it was blinking on and off, and it was flitting around. And the next thing was 2. And 4 and 7 and 12. I was like, so I got up and shut the door to our bedroom, because there was a door to our balcony. And I shut the door, and now there was 24. I said, well, if their fireflies are multiplying, you know, by some osmosis or something, there's like there's 24 of them. So, of course, he's kind of saying, oh, now you're going to tell me it's extraterrestrials or something. But I didn't know what it was. And I said, well, either way, in the middle of the night, they will all die and be on the floor in the morning, or they'll be buzzing around. So whatever. So we watched them for a while longer, and we went to sleep. And when I got up in the morning, there was no dead flies on the floor. There was nothing in the air. There was nothing there. And in the next few days, Stephen Greer did this video, and he started to talk about these little bluish purple entities that were blinking. And I was like, there they are. Because it will always come to you. If you've had an experience, now you have to wait for the place where some sort of explanation comes. It'll either come to you through something you hear, or something you see, or something you read. So again, all of us can see these types of extraterrestrial multidimensional beings. There's bleed-throughs all over the place right now. Things are happening that you're like, I'm sure I put that right there and it's gone, and then you come back and it's back. I don't know, you've probably seen that. I think they're bleed-through, dimensional bleed-throughs, because I'll put something down and I'm convinced I put it right there, and then you'll go and you're looking for it all over the house, and you come back and it's right there again. He's like, but I just checked there. So we have to be very allowing at this point in time, and I just say thank you at this point. Okay, thank you. I got it. So everything's a thank you now.
We're never alone. When we feel most alone, what we have to do is call out. I know you're there. I know you can come and be with me. I need to feel you. Come and sit with me. Sometimes you can even say, touch me. Let me know you're there. I was in a church experience one time, and I felt this hand come down on my shoulder because I was praying for proof. You know, I need to feel you. It wasn't enough to be in the church and trying to get my head wrapped around it. I felt this hand come down on my shoulder, and the tears came down my face. And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're there. I know you're there. And the lady behind me, I thought she had touched me. My first reaction was, oh, she touched me. And when I looked back, she was 2 rows behind me. She could not have touched me. And she said, oh, somebody just touched your shoulder. And I said, did you see it? She goes, yeah, there was an indent on your clothes. And I was like, oh, thank you so much, because she validated more. So we can call out, yes, I know you're there. I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm afraid. Come and be with me. Come and sit with me. Touch me. Let me feel your presence. And then say thank you. And then just wait for it.
Most of these happenings happened when I was traveling for Fire the Grid. Now you got to think, I connected every single morning. It was like my only thing I was doing was connecting, speaking, channeling, connecting, speaking, channeling. Oh, what? You want me to do what? You know, that type of thing. So this beautiful woman invited me to come to her house, and we had this big meal together, like we would be sitting here. And it was stew, and it was wonderful. And all of a sudden in my ear, now in the beginning, I'd hear stuff and I'd ignore it. Stop talking to me, I'm eating. So, but when I was on Fire the Grid tour and I was traveling and speaking, I paid attention. So in my ear I heard, go to the crystal shop right now. I'm eating stew. And it's like, go to the crystal shop right now. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So have you got a crystal shop? And the husband says, yes, we have one downtown. I said, can you bring me to the crystal shop? And he goes, right now? I said, yep, right now. So off we went, and we went into the crystal store. There's 3 of us, and they're walking around. I'm standing in the middle of the crystal shop going, I gave up my stew for this. What am I doing here? So this woman comes out from behind the glass counter, and she has this huge piece of celestite in her hand. Well, I didn't know what celestite was, and she goes, this is what you're looking for. And she put it in my hand, and my hand vibrated, my arm vibrated, and I was like, what is this? And she said, it's the stone that helps you speak to the angels. And anyway, I was like, oh, cool. And she goes, well, this is the one you need. And I said, why didn't you go to my friends and bring a stone to them? And she said, the stone wanted to come to you. I was like, oh, cool, okay. So these are proof moments, right? You're driven to go somewhere, you have something happen, somebody puts a piece of stone in your hand, well, you gotta buy it. So I bought the stone, and I brought the stone home to Nova Scotia, and I started a little meditation thing. I said, what the hell am I doing with this stone? Why did I bring this stone home? And so they asked me to put the stone on my high heart and lean back into the bed pillows and sit with it. And the next thing I know, I'm going down a tube, and I'm going somewhere, and all of a sudden, I'm not Shelley anymore. I am the warrior piece of myself that came here to do this job, and I'm on the floor, and I have my sword out and my head bowed in service. Well, you know me, I've been telling you now for, 24 hours. Resistance, resistance, resistance. But this part of me is literally in service. And the Council of Light, talks to this piece of me and says, you're being too hard on her, meaning the Shelley part of me. You're being too hard on her. She has survived this. She is doing everything. She's done everything for you to be able to come forward. So we just wanted this opportunity to tell you to be loving and grateful to her, because this piece of me was frustrated that the Shelley part of me was just not cooperating. So anyway, after that, things were much better. And another stone, I woke up in the middle of the night. So these are kind of like the proof little stories. They're crazy stories. You get somebody tapping you, and it's like, what? And I heard double terminated green aventurine crystal. And I'm like, what? So I pulled up the computer, and I put in double terminated green aventurine crystal, and up pops this stone on the screen, big picture. And it says, buy it here now. And I was like, oh, well, if I can buy it here now, I'll go down to the stone store and get one tomorrow, thinking it's common. So I go to the stone store, and I want a double terminated green aventurine crystal. And the woman goes, you can't find one of those. And I'm like, but I just found it online. She said, well, march your little ass home and buy it, because I can't get that for you. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. So I went home, and I ordered the stone, and I was going to see Drunvalo in Quebec. So I was all excited. I wanted the stone before I went, because I didn't know what the stone did. This big celestite connected me to my higher self and a big sorted experience. I was like, whoa, what's this one going to do? So anyway, I didn't get the stone. So I went to see Drunvalo in Quebec. I had the most amazing, talk about proof experiences. Those stories were just off the charts amazing. So anyway, fast forward, I get back to my house, and here's the stone. It's come. And I unpackage it, and I reach in. Now this is a piece of stone. The earth made it. And it's vibrating like this. Holy God. So I called my husband in, and I put it in his hand. I didn't say anything. I said, what do you think of that? And he goes, I don't know. What does it do? It's nice. Okay, here. And he gives it back to me. He doesn't say anything about the vibration. I call my daughter in. I give it to her. I said, what do you think of this? And she goes, oh, it's pretty. There you go. She doesn't have an experience with it. And Evan comes upstairs, and I said, listen, come hold this piece of rock. And he goes, oh, yeah, another piece of rock, because you're kind of crazy. It's a rock. And he picks it up, and he holds it, and he goes, why is it vibrating? So I said, what kind of vibration? He goes, like your whole arm feels like it's doing this. And I said, exactly. So anyway, he went on, and he was kind of surprised that it vibrated as well. And I did a little meditation and asked, what the hell am I supposed to do with this vibrating stone? And this is stuff that they will give you. So they told me to put the stone in the bed between the mattress and the box spring, with the biggest piece of the stone under the heart chakra and the smallest piece of the stone towards the feet, and leave it there for 30 days. What do you do? I did it. Yeah, but I mean, really, what do you do except, well, what other choice do you have? You put it in the bed. So anyway, 30 days later, I went to take the stone out, and I reached in and I pulled it out, and there was not a gig. No vibration. I was kind of bummed out, actually. So I was like, okay, what was that all about? And they said, just an alignment technology that we use to assist you. So they were constantly coming and doing strange things that you would follow the clues or follow the words, and then you get a stone or you get some sort of happening. They said the time for proof is gone. That in the fence sitter situation. So people who want to be part of this shift, people who want to make a change, have to do it without proof. The time for proof is gone. It's like you're either in or you're out. Make a decision. Say yes to what your decision is. And this is all part and parcel of what's coming up for us as a species with respect to this shift into this new world. So you can ask for proof, and I'm sure you will get things that, like you said earlier, there was these little things that happen, and it's like, and it's like, yeah, those are your proofs. They may mean nothing to somebody else. Now, another really cool thing that happens is when animals come to you, you know, a bird will land on your car, or a little ladybug, or, you know, so all of these creatures, if you Google ladybug spiritual meaning, it comes up with a message for you. And the indigenous people have always done this, that the animals are bringing us messages. So this is a really fun, cool little thing to bring this spiritual nature into your life. So like there's deer in the yard. We could Google the spiritual meaning of deer, right? The softness of life. And so I find that the more fun you can have with this, the easier it is to accept. And the easier it is to accept, the easier it is to use. And when you meet the girl at the corner store and you want to say something kind to that person, you can kind of summon all of this that you're working with every day and pass that energy on. Change something. There's a couple of stories here I'll leave you with. As I grew over the past 19 years of learning how to use this energy, they would say something to me. Now here's a story. Oh, you're going to go to Mexico and you're going to meet a shaman and he's going to give you a gift. Now the first thing I have to do is interpret all that information in my brain. I'm going to meet a shaman. I'm going to meet him. He's going to give me a gift. You know, this is going to happen. So I got in Mexico and I started immediately. Do you know a shaman? 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 Nobody knows a shaman. So then I go to some event and I'm like, do you know a shaman? So I'm like a friggin' lunatic. Do you know shaman? And finally I was like, fuck this, I'm not going to meet no shaman. Because I was sitting on a very expensive resort in the Maya, and I'm like, yeah, like a shaman's just going to come up and go, hey, get out of the pool, I want to give you something. But anyway, so my son is like all excited to go on a jungle adventure. Zip lining, rappelling, going down tubes, going up tubes. I was like, no thank you, fat body, ain't doing this. So I said, I'll wait. So him and my husband went off and did their whole, you know, zip lining or whatever the adventure was in the jungle. And I just sat on a bench and enjoyed the jungle, you know, listened to the critters. And so anyway, this very short little man comes up. He says, come, 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 come. And I'm like, where are we going? Now I'm in the middle of the jungle. And this little guy wants me to follow him. And I'm like, not real happy about this. Like, I don't know where I'm going. But anyway, whatever, I'm coming. So off I toddle behind him. And he takes me down this windy little tiny path, and I'm starting to freak out. And I'm going down this little windy into the belly of the earth. And I get down into the belly of the earth, and here's this little shaman. Get out of here. So everybody from the ziplining group are all kind of lined up against, you know, there's a pool of water. We're in the middle. We're in a cave. they're all lined up. The shaman is there. He's doing his thing. And I step in and he, he's like nods. Yeah, okay, great. And then as he comes along, he speaks to everybody and he says something. And he comes up to me and he puts his hand on my chest and he says, I have a gift for you. Well, holy shit. You didn't give a gift to anybody else. So now I'm like, this is a shaman and I'm getting my gift. And I'm expecting him to pass me something because we interpret a gift as something. Here's your gift. That's not what he did. He said, I have a blessing for you. He said, it's for all the work that you're doing and the people around you. It's a safety blessing. He said, you are completely and totally safe. And he touched my chest again. I'm like, oh my God, the gift was not a gift, like not a tangible gift. So I tried to make that happen. I didn't have my vision and just trust. In the 2010 event, the 10-10-10 event that they had in New York City, they invited all these Mayan people there. And I had a vision. It was a little green skull, and I was holding the skull, and I was crying. So I called the guy, and I said, oh, is there somebody coming with a green skull? He goes, yeah, I'll make sure you meet her. So when I got off the plane, he goes, the woman with the green skull is not coming. Well, why did I see that? So now I'm questioning the whole thing again. So anyway, the Mayans get up, the little people get up, the crystal skulls are being walked around, and I start to shake the same way I did when that man, I'm shaking, and I try to get up and leave, and the woman says, sit with it, just sit here with me, you're okay. And I'm like, I'm embarrassed, because I was howling. And everybody's like dancing with their skulls, and I'm like, and this woman comes out of nowhere with this little green skull and pushes it into my body and pushes up against my chest, and she's like, just hold it. And I look down, and it's a little green skull, and I'm bawling my eyes out, exactly what I saw. So once again, I'm trying to make it happen. And so when we have a vision, when we have something that's coming, we don't make it happen. You don't go looking for the shaman. You don't go looking for the little green skull. You just allow that something's happening. So I said to her, why did you come up to me and give me this little green skull to push up against my body? And she said, it told me to. I was like, oh, cool. So then I sat back down, the tears stopped, things were calm, and the being said to me, clear as day, buy one of those little green skulls and go over and put it next to that one, and the big one will transfer the information to the little one, and you can take it home. So I did that. I asked her if I could do that, and she started making millions of dollars off it, because she would buy all these little skulls and put them with the skull, and they would do a transference. I don't know if that skull did all those other transferences, but I got mine. So I was like, thank you, and stuck it in my pocket. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because we don't make things happen. If you have a vision of it, it's because it's going to happen. And you don't go around trying to make it happen, you know. So every time I did that, I always found myself going, oh, I didn't need to do that. So Drunvalo was teaching the story of how do we get out of the mind when we manifest and get into the heart. Now there's 80 people in the room. So before we went into the room for the meditation, I had said to my friend who was there with me, oh, somebody's going to have an absolute fit. There's going to be an absolute angry, pissed off human in this room. And she goes, Shelley, it's Zen. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's Zen, but somebody's going to get pissed off, and we're going to have a huge outbreak, and outburst. And she's like, I don't think so. I'm like, okay. So anyway, we went in, we did the thing, we pulled the energy down, did the little small chamber of the heart. Anyway, the next thing I know, I stuck my tongue in the roof of my mouth, and my essence shot out of my body down a light tunnel. And I went, oh, wow! And my feet were in the sand. We're not in Kansas anymore. And I'm like, holy shit, this works. So I'm having this proof moment that his teaching works. And now I can feel the sand, and there's a little tiny personal size pyramid. And I'm like, look at this little pyramid. And I just went right inside. I was like, oh, cool. And on the floor of the pyramid was the flower of life, and on the back of the pyramid was this symbol. It's Chai. It's a Hebrew letter for life, eternal life, and the flower of life. And there's this beautiful woman there, and she's got a vial, and she looks like she's floating. You know, like, where's your feet? And behind her is this tube of gold with a crescent moon, and there's 3 big centurion guards, and I'm like, wow! So I'm going around, like, checking it all out, feeling the floors, like, this is so cool. And she keeps offering me this vial. Have this vial. And I'm like, I'm really busy right now. Just hang on a second. And all of a sudden I hear Jen Valok say, I'm calling you back. I'm calling you back. And he had already told us that he got stuck in one of his meditations, and he was there for 3 days. So I'm like, I gotta go. So I grabbed the vial out of this woman's hand, and I drank it, and another one of those, oh shit, I don't know what that was. But the next thing I'm like, oh, I'm stuck in this pyramid. I'm stuck in this pyramid. I don't know how to get out. There's no windows, there's no doors. And a voice says to me, how did you get in? I thought myself in. Think yourself out. So anyway, the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the chair in the conference, and I came right up through my body, through the chair. And I sat in the chair, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And he comes down and gives me the microphone. He goes, tell us what happened, because he saw it. Like everybody else was sitting with their eyes shut. And he gives me the microphone, and he tells me to tell the story. So I tell the story, and I'm so excited. And anyway, my girlfriend's sitting next to me, and she said, I didn't even recognize your voice. This has just been the weirdest experience. And my God, doesn't somebody up in the corner jump up and have a fit? And he's having a fit, and he's swearing, and he's pissed off, and he's like, I didn't get any goddamn journey. And I'm like, oh my God. And here he is having this holy on fit. And my girlfriend goes, but these little proof stories and these little cool stories do not just belong to me. We can all have them. But it starts with yes. It starts with you agreeing, I can have them. It starts with you agreeing, I'm entitled to have them. Right? It starts with you saying, I am an energy being in a suit, and therefore I have all this omnipotent power to have all these experiences. So I really encourage people to go have the experiences, because once you have them, they're so much fun. And something happens, something changes in you. And I think this energy field right now is ripe for us to really, all of us, to start saying, yes, I need proof, show me something. Now, we talked about proof, the time for proof is gone. You might have to do it without proof. But you could have some fun experiences, and it's just too cool when they happen. And I think we're all, having them. Are we talking about them? So that was my my trip with him. And if you ever get to see him or experience him, he's really cool. I went to James Gilliland's place, and he's a kind of a hot spot for UFO technology, that type of thing. Now, he's been on a ton of these paranormal shows, and Bigfoot lives here, and ETs come here, and, so I had no idea, but it was like, this is where I'm going next. So the first thing that happened when I got to his piece of property was this symbol on my arm was on his conference room door. I was like, what is that? And he said, oh, that's the symbol for our home planet. Of course, I did the same. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, our home planet. Okay. But everything made sense, and it will to you too. When you connect with yourself, and when you connect to the things that kind of drive you to find things and do things, you'll just know. So that night at his place, we probably took, I don't know, 80 pictures with 4 or 5 different cameras. And as we were clicking the pictures, humongous plasma fields, orbs, the unbelievable photographs of the other world, the stuff that we can't see with our natural eye. So you just have to keep saying yes. You just have to keep following your clues, and then seeing what comes from that. Now, was there a proof thing that happened? Oh, I'm in the car. I'm traveling by myself to Gilliland's ranch, and it's so far in the woods you got to come out to hunt. Like, this place is just like way up in the mountains, and I'm in the car and I'm driving and I'm terrified. I don't know if there's a bed there. I might have to sleep on straw. Maybe this guy's an axe murderer. I really knew nothing. Spirit said go, and I'm like, okay, I'm going. So I'm like, okay, God, or whatever you are, I need proof. I'm panicking. So I always felt bad asking for proof. But they constantly say, we have no problem showing you things to help you feel comfortable. So I'm like, okay, I need proof right now. I'm scared. And 3 eagles came down and went over the top of my car in a circle. I was like, I'll take it. That's great. And then I didn't get much further. I was 40 minutes getting up the road, and I was like, okay, scared again, don't know where I'm going, don't know what I'm doing. Is this the right thing to be doing? And as I came around the corner, here's a whole herd of elk. Not one, a herd, and they're lying on the side of the road. They're just lined up. Dozens and dozens of elk. So James tells me he has this little dog. I think his name's Jaffa or Jaffe or something. And he's a sweet little dog. But he says to me that this dog is a extraterrestrial supernatural healer. And of course, I'm like, okay, sure, let's go with that. Because I'll tell you, wrapping your head around these truthful things are just pretty wild. So we went out in the field and we're clicking the pictures and we're getting the pictures of the plasma. But the interesting thing was, on my hip was this enormous light. So you were taking the picture of me, and somebody was here showing me the light on my hip. I couldn't see it on my body. You couldn't see it on my body. But when you took the picture, you're like, what is that? So you come over and show it to me. You're taking a picture. So while we're looking at the picture, you can still see the light. So there's probably 20 pictures, maybe 30 pictures of this super, super bright light on my hip. Now, I had injured myself. And after that night, the dog was limping, and I was healed. And James said, oh, the dog took it. And I said, but what's the light? He goes, I've never seen that on anybody in my life. And we really, I mean, you just don't believe your own stuff. We took my pants apart. We looked for one of those little things that might have made a light. But this was a light that looked like it was coming out of me. It wasn't a light that was setting on top of me. The supernatural world is always active, and if you take the photographs, you can see things that you can't see with our eye. Now, at that time, my husband is a scientist, and he started to do some research on our eyes because he found it fascinating the things that we could not see that he was being shown. He couldn't deny it. You can look at it. So he started fascinatingly looking for what about the eyeball? And what he discovered was that the eyeball is actually built that we could see the full spectrum. But as in human form, they have limited our ability to see, because I think it would drive us crazy if we could see too much in this form right now. Because I've seen tons of stuff that's like overwhelming. So imagine if they gave you the full range too fast. But as we move into this next world, I think those things in our eyeballs are all going to be engaged, and we're going to be able to see so many more things than we can see right now. I suspect this room is probably filled with orbs, because as soon as you start talking about this kind of high frequency stuff, and the orbs are, to me, orbs are energy beings that don't have a suit. So do you see how lucky you are? You can eat the food, and you can touch your skin, and you can kiss somebody and hold somebody, and the orbs are going, oh, me too, me too. And it's why they like joy. They love to see us playing. They love to see us happy. And the orbs are like, yeah, that looks so much fun. I want to do it too. So you see how lucky you are to have the body, because you can do all the cool human things that the orb can't. They can only go, oh, I wish I could do that. So this is part of what I use as my proof. Constantly going back to proof. And people say, well, why would you ever question again? I don't know why I would question again, because I'm an obstinate human. And I think many of us are. You know, we're on this planet, we're having this experience, and you're asking me to do things, and I like my proof. So I still say those that require proof will never have enough. But once you start to surrender that it's there, it's easier. You know, so ask for proof if you want proof.